Hello, you are watching The Culture Perspective with Thomas McKinney and friends. I am his friend, Tamila Wiggins, the founder of Our Sons and Daughters, and we have Jazzy Joy. She is not calling us from NYC, but she is calling us from Connecticut today. So we have a great show for you guys. And Mr. McKinney, he's going to tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, good evening and welcome once again to Cultural Perspectives. And we have a very interesting show lined up for today, and we're honored to have it being hosted by Miss Camilla Wiggins, who is going to guide us through this journey this afternoon, this evening. We'll be talking about some things that are going on, not just in our culture, but may have some impact on our culture. We're going to talk a little bit about mental health issues. We're going to talk about things to do with some educational stuff as a brief continuation of our last show, and we're also going to address some issues relative to the war and that's going on with Russia and their intrusion into another country. So we want to get set and we're ready to go. And if you have any ideas, people can call in or they can comment on live, right? So we're looking forward to your participation as well. Miss Wiggins, guide us.
All right. So it has been a lot of videos going viral. When I say going viral, I mean everybody is talking about it. So recently I received a video of looks like fourth grader, third or fourth grader. She is tearing up a classroom, and the teachers are trying to get all the students out the classroom while this student is throwing desks, kicking books. She's just tearing up this classroom. Thomas and Jazzy, have you seen this video?
Yeah, I saw it.
I haven't seen it. I've heard something else where a teacher was hospitalized because of a 5-year-old and beat her up. I think I heard that.
I think I sent it to you in Messenger. You had check your Messenger.
All right.
When I saw it, it was like, what? Because I don't know, I might be a year or two older than you guys, all right? But I would not even think of that of carrying on like that in school. I mean, not only would I wouldn't, none of my fellow students would dare, just carry on. And this is not something. It's not an isolated incident. I've been hearing a lot about stuff like this lately going on in the schools where the behavior of the children, is off the hook. And I'm trying to understand what the cultural relevance is that. What is the significance of stuff like that going on in our show? And basically we're talking about current events as well. So that's that ties into what the day the topic of today's show. But I want to know how that is relative, or is it relative? Is it a cultural thing that the way the kids are acting in school? Does it have to do with home life? Does it have to do with economics? It probably has a lot to do with a lot of that. And what kids are seeing on social media, what kids are seeing, what they're being exposed to, the lack of discipline.
Right.
Yeah. What say you, Tamila?
Well, just to build on to our whole point of this show, like we talked about the video that went viral, the child tearing up the classroom, but we have also seen a rise in domestic violence and suicide. Okay, I heard about this morning in Wilmington, North Carolina, where a husband decides to go to a parking lot and he shoots his wife in the face 3 times. Okay, we're hearing more and more stories like that that's hitting close. They're hitting very close to home. Wilmington, North Carolina is not that far. And I know before we can never even imagine things like this happening. A child tearing up a classroom and children having to run out. We never really heard tales of stories of people really getting shot in public areas, and a husband and a wife, one killing the other. And it was another thing. Of course, we're going to talk about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Like, things events like this, it's changing our culture. Not it's changing the climate. We have become, insensitive, desensitized, because now when we see a lot of these events, some people, they will just, they will turn and act like they don't even see it. It's a lot of, I'm going to mind my business, I'm not going to intervene type of thing. And it's a lot of taking your phone out and I'm just going to share the event instead of trying to help the person that's going through the situation. So is this a new thing in our culture that we're experiencing? It will this be the new norm? And if this is the new norm, it's very scary.
Yeah. Well,
it's definitely very scary.
Yeah.
I know we've seen mental illness before in the streets, the subways in New York City, but they seem to be more violent now. They used to didn't bother people. They just walked around, maybe talking to themselves or whatever. But now they're attacking people and pushing people in the subway. It's in front of the train. So I don't get what is happening here.
Yes, it's this random behavior. So sociologists and what we call public policy makers, they have coined the term to explain this impulsive behavior and what we call new attitudes and values that we see now. They call that culture change. So they put a soft word on it to explain harsh attitudes and harsh actions that's going on right now. But the reason why we're having this show today, and I think why I'm hosting it, is because I'm seeing a lot of it in our educational system, and I'm seeing how it affects children, and it spills out into the community, and what happens in the community spills back into our schools. So what can we do as individuals to try to change our climate in our area? And can it be changed? Or will we just go along to get along and just try to make it home every day? What's your opinion about the cultural change that sociologists and policymakers are talking about?
I mean, being a person that is out in the community and interacts in the community, I have definitely seen a rise in violence, right? Not just in schools, but in neighborhoods and families. People seem more aggressive towards one another. The language, the use of language is more aggressive. You see more aggressive video games, more aggressive videos in terms of music videos, and I don't know what are we devolving into? I mean, and why is it economically related? Do people feel more challenged in terms of their survival issues, being able to earn and get and facilitate a lifestyle that's manageable? Are we becoming more? Is there more marginalization in our communities that tend to pit people against each other? Is there a breakdown in the family structure that is causing people to respond violently towards each other? I mean, that's what I'm seeing, right? And it's very disconcerting in that, where are we headed? I mean, where as a culture, as a society? Because I mean, it's not just in our cultural dynamic, but it seems to be in the society as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, look what's going on. You mentioned the war in Ukraine. Look what's going on. I mean, unjustifiable as far as we know, unjustifiable intrusion into another country, and the people think it's all right. I mean, well, the people that are doing it, the government thinks it's all right.
Yeah. And it's all unfolding on TV. Social media has made a lot of things that we have never heard of, we wouldn't think of seeing. We're seeing it now because anybody with a phone can be a reporter and make it go live. So we're seeing footage, raw footage that's happening in Ukraine, that's being put on our televisions and our families, and are they're watching it, and that's distressing to us Americans. What can we do? But it's having an impact on us, and it's also having an impact on gas prices. If you've been to the pump, it's almost $4. And sociologists say that this is a result of capitalism. So the effects of capitalism stresses the community, it causes a strain, and therefore people start to behave in negative ways. And that trickles from the parents all the way down to the children, and then it starts to affect the institutions, right? The institutions that in America that we have been used to. So it's disrupting, our culture. And when I say culture, I mean all of us. This is American culture. And then it has subcultures within the American cultures how it affects different nationalities or backgrounds and races. So what can we do? What can we do to try to combat some of this? And what I did, I did a little bit of research, and I said, well, who is trying to help? Who's trying to help improve? Who's trying to fight back? Really, who's trying to fight back by creating or researching ways that we can improve this negative turn? Because who's trying to fight back and try to improve this? So sociologists, they are studying. They're studying behaviors. Policymakers, public policymakers, that was like, public policymakers, why would they want to study our behavior? They want to study us because we spend the money, we make the money. They need to know what, So this is what they're doing. They are they're making resources available in our government to help people that are having mental health issues, because the behavior it goes under the mental health. But a lot of people, even though the resources are there, study shows that a lot of people cannot afford to even, they're giving us resources, but they're not affordable resources for everybody. They said 7.7 million people in 2020 reported they have experienced a mental health issue, a mental health breakdown. This is including children. I don't know if it's rural area or not rural area, but this is some stuff we kind of never heard of before. And it's really alarming to me that nobody's kind of talking about it.
So some of the research I did, I see, the Canadian Public Health Association has defined violence in society a public health perspective, right? They're looking at it from a public health point of view. They're saying violence in society is of increasing concern to Canadians and abroad. Other growing knowledge of the nature of violence requires us to expand our ideas of who are the perpetrators of violence and who are affected. We are coming to realize that violence takes many more forms than physical blows or wounds. It includes sexual assault, neglect, verbal attacks, insults, threats, harassment, and other psychological abuses. Violence occurs in homes, workplaces, public institutions, schools, healthcare facilities, and the street. Women and children are often the victims of violence, as are men, and most often the violence is committed by someone known to the victim. Wow, so that's saying a lot. Just in that brief summary about what's going on. I mean, and like you say, we're gaining perspective about this whole dynamic, this whole situation, and what do we do? I think is the major concern. How do we address this?
How do we address it?
I think we need to find out what the cause is. I don't know if I agree with sociologists saying it's capitalism. We've always had capitalism. It's something else in the mix that's causing this.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what we need to find out.
What's the
Like
something
the
else?
new generation, I don't know. It's something very different, and that's what we need to analyze, and then maybe we can work towards a solution.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the evolution of capitalism. Capitalism has become more and more selective, right? Or more and more, it eliminates more and more people because of the way that people at the top are
Hmm.
gaining all the wealth and through capitalism. Yeah, I think it's the result of capitalism, the evolution of capitalism, not just say capitalism itself, but how capitalism has evolved in that the more the more wealth that is transferred to the dominant culture or the people on the upscale of the economic ladder, the more devastated people who are below that economic ladder becomes. Just like what we were talking about trying to get an apartment. You got to have 3 times the rent now, and but the wages are not going up, to facilitate
Right.
that. That's capitalism, but that's capitalism being selective and becoming abused.
But I think social media has a lot to do with it because you see a lot of things. I guess, and it makes you want more. It makes it seem like you should have more. I think social media plays a big role in this
Oh,
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
I
because you can see what you don't have, and you can see what everybody else has. And before social media, we didn't really see
we didn't
what
think
the
about
wealthy, yeah, we didn't really think
it.
about it that
No.
much.
Yeah. Just like you were saying about the social media, when it comes to our children, every child has a laptop now. If they go to the public school, they have a laptop. If they don't take the laptop home with them, they have it during school hours. Children are online, and we wonder. I seen this situation. I seen a child kill a bug, and when the child killed the bug was just, being a bug outside. So the child just runs over, kills the bug. Another child stands there and just looks at the bug and stares at the bug. And so I see the child that stepped on the bug, he has no feelings. He just wanted to kill it, right? And the other child comes by, she's so sad that he killed the bug. It's a lot of We're becoming insensitive and desensitized, and it's happening more and more with our children, and they are the next generation. So if they're able to continue to binge watch violence, play violent games, have no type of consequences for negative actions, um this is creating something that's going to be very it's a bomb. It's a bomb because looking at that video of that child tearing up that classroom, and the teacher is telling the child, to calm down, and she's not listening to authority, have no respect for authority. And I'm seeing that a lot now, where younger children have no respect for authority. They don't care who they hurt. It's like they can see another child cry, and they're not compassionate. And I'm saying I see more children that lack remorse and feeling that do have it. And the ones that do have it, they are preyed on. They are picked on. So, um, and adults, they encourage the negative behaviors. I have seen adults that encourage their children to be bullies. I seen adults that encourage their children to hurt, you know. Um, and it's sad, and it's very sad. And this spills out into what people do in the workplace. What will you do for money? I seen a YouTube video about a guy. It's an older lady. She's walking down the steps. She's going to the subway in New York, and this guy runs up behind her and starts to hit her in the head with a hammer, and then he takes her purse. I don't know if y'all seen that video, but these are some of the
yes, I've seen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are some of the strange, like what we call action reaction. So if you can't afford food, or if you can't afford gas, if you can't afford to pay your light bill, these are the stressors that you have, and it'll make you do something. And imagine children being overdosing on violence on online, and then they hear it in the music, and then when they come home, their parents are fussing and fighting each other. And then when they go into school, which they're supposed to learn and we're supposed to help them build character, it falls all apart. So this is creating our new normal, because people like me, and I know I shouldn't be like that, sometimes I see things and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep walking because I want to make it home, or I don't want to get hurt, or I don't want to get into a conflict trying to help somebody. So what do we do, you guys?
Well, I think it begins with having these conversations, right? And I'm sure that they're being had in a lot of places, but we have to get involved. I think in the realities of our community, right? We have to try to get a handle on the kids, on the youth, right? And try to show them other kinds of ways. But it's so overwhelming because it's proliferated all through the society. It's it's not just one culture. It's becoming multicultural in terms of the economic deprivation that these behaviors manifest from. And I don't know. I don't know if it's really, really, really challenging to kind of see where we'll understand where it starts and who has the power to change it around. You talk about, well, the voting power and the democracy, we the people. But if we the people are doing it, right, then how do we galvanize a response that is going to turn this around? When you look at what happened at the Capitol building, I mean, when they overran the Capitol, I mean, that was like indicative of what's going on in the belly of the beast, so to speak, in a lot of these communities. And it's just all you see it time and time again. Now, maybe, like you said, because of social media, we're becoming more exposed to it. Maybe this has been going on for forever, but now we're being able to view it. But I don't remember feeling this anxious about violence when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. Yeah, we had little gangs and we fought, and but people weren't shooting each other like they're doing now. People weren't, just the mental health issue wasn't as prevalent and out there as it is now. People weren't pushing people on the train tracks or shooting people in the face. Shooting, I know a friend of mine who got killed by his nephew. Right? It's like, what is going on? And it's all about. A lot of it is about money. A lot of it is about property and about trying to come up with a fix. Okay, we vote people in office. The people in office try to pass legislation, that talks about housing, that talks about economic development, that talks about the things that are part of our societal makeup. And these things are lacking in a lot of ways. People don't have resources to obtain a lot of these things, so they feel marginalized, they feel neglected, they feel left out. And so, how do you get them to feel included? How do you get them to feel like a part of something that is worth them not tearing up?
It's a hard question, and I hope somebody could write in or call or wanted to be a part of the conversation and kind of give their opinion on this topic. I know this is a lot of stuff that we talk about at home. I come home and I talk to my family, and this is some of the stuff I talk about. I
Yeah,
let them know some of the behaviors that I saw and how it made me feel. I have open conversations like that. And I wish that more people in our community that we can have more open conversations on platforms like this to kind of put it out there in the open and to see what can we do or let people know, look, this is happening and it's not right. And then some people can say, who are we to determine what's right and what's wrong behavior? You know, the social norms are changing, the times are changing, the culture is changing. So do we go along with the new culture change,
yeah, but
or do we fight back and try to create solutions? This is where I am today. Do I go along with the new normal and I create my own bubble around me and my family, and I just keep walking on and, you know, try to block out all the violence and negative stuff? Or do I try to be proactive? By being proactive, meaning, you know, joining a crisis response team or doing a health education, mental health education class, or do I be a part of a gatekeepers training, which I am. I'm going through the NAMI training right now to, you know, be certified to do peer counseling, group therapy. That's my way of being proactive. But do I really want to tackle this? Is it worth my energy trying to help my community, or will I be flooded out because it feels like it's more people that's going along with the new normal than trying to fight the new normal, if you get what I'm saying.
well, I don't think you said like keep your family in a bubble. I don't know if that's even possible, right?
It's
Because
not.
at some point you got to come out of that bubble, or someone people in your family are gonna have to come out. Your children have to come out of the bubble, right? And what happens to them when they come out? I think it's
It's
something
scary.
right, and I think we have to really like get involved in platforms that are really taking this seriously, because we are in some very very serious times. I believe. I think that we are approaching um, some catastrophic results, right? In terms of what goes on in our communities, what's going on in our country, our neighborhoods, our country, what's going on in the world, right? We may be on the brink. People don't think about it. We may be on the brink of nuclear war.
Right.
I mean, there's been some talk and threats about
True.
nuclear war.
Hmm.
Yeah, you started to say something, Jesse?
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's really serious.
It's very serious, and we are moving along, and yeah, I see it. We're acknowledging it, right? And then what does it take to hit home? To happen in our families, in our households before we realize how much how serious it is. You know, it's I don't know. I mean, I'm at a loss because I try to be involved in different platforms. I try to be involved in dynamics that are trying to do things, um, but it's such an uphill climb. Um, when you look at it from a political perspective, what is going on with the politics? What is going on in government? Are they oblivious to this, and are they insulated from it so that it doesn't impact them? How do we make our so-called representatives, people who represent our communities, um, proactive about what they're doing for our communities? And how do we support that? Because they can only do what we support them. What we support them doing. So there's a lot of facets to this whole problem where you know where do you inject yourself into to try to make a difference.
Right. That's a lot.
I think things like, you know, the you know, these platforms like Awesome Radio, or like Our Sons and Daughters, like, you know, different platforms that are out there trying to do things or give people opportunity to do things are vital. And I hope that there, you know, this results in an impact. But there's such a law. The problem is so widespread. It is so entrenched, right? That, you know, I noticed, like, on Facebook, for instance, when you see people post something on Facebook that's frivolous, or that's, like, you know, it doesn't really have any you know, really significant meaning. It's just like something that's nonsensical. People get a lot of responses.
Yeah.
When you put something on Facebook that's serious, that's designed to make people think, people don't respond to that. You know,
because people don't want to think. I feel, and it's crazy that you said that, because I noticed when you post something, it can be real deep and intellectual. I will see no likes. I will see no shares. And the same thing that happens to me. And I heard one of my cousins, he was saying, well, I never comment on your post because you're a deep thinker or you talk too deep. But my thing is, people have stopped with the critical thinking. People, they don't want to think, because we're living in a society where everything is instant, right? We can get fast food, we can get fast money, we can get things fixed in a hurry. People don't want to go through the whole process of thinking, creating solutions.
And it goes back to social media.
Right.
I was to give you an example. I'm sorry to cut you off. To give you an example of a friend of mine, I was showing her some pictures, physical photos, and she started to scroll up. She caught herself scrolling up, and I was like, oh my God.
On physical pictures?
Yeah, because she was such in the habit of
Oh, wow.
Instagram and all of that. You're scrolling up or scrolling, and
the two fingers.
Yes, and she caught herself. So I think it goes back to social media, where you don't have to think much, and plus you're not taught in the schools to think, really.
Right. Because we, believe it or not, we want to get them through to the next level. All children are behind them. They're like 2 grades behind. Now, when you're 2 grades behind, it's hard to catch up, because you're always going to be 2 grades behind, right? And then you add in all this other stuff that's going on. And we think children don't worry about adult things, but they do. Children, they are concerned about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. They ask questions. You know, they want to know what's happening with certain situations. They want to know why. I know it's a in the morning, sometimes when I go to school, you can smell like a foul smell. It smells like sewage or manure. They want to know what's going on in the environment. They want to know, why they can't drink out the water fountains anymore like they used to. You know, they want to know about things that we don't think that matters to them. And those are stresses to children, and those are a reason why they act out. And we as adults, we always say, don't ask why, or don't ask this question, because sometimes we don't know the answer, or sometimes we don't even want to tackle the issues because it's that stressful for us, you know? So I think it's a time that we start answering the whys. And if we don't know how to answer the whys, trying to find out why, and have open communication with our children. Because I feel like the only way that we're going to be able to work together and try to heal and de-stress and try to solve some of these issues, if we talk about it freely. Stop having these conversations at home, around the dinner table or in the living room. Stop having them in the break room or in the office amongst your peers. It's time for us to have these conversations in public. Like you said, critical thinking is not shared, but somebody will share a silly picture or a silly meme and it will go viral. You know, just like the girl that talked about the war with Ukraine and the US and Russia. She went viral because she explained the war in a comical way, right? She used comedy to explain what was going on between Russia and Ukraine and how America is not going to be a part of it. I don't know if you guys seen that video, but it went viral. It was on CNN, Good Morning America. It went viral everywhere. And this girl is popular because she made comedy out of politics. This
which
is what
comedy. Which has
I
become
did. I think I saw that.
yeah, the black girl that were, you know, she talked
Mm-hmm.
about how they were beefing. She used a lot of slang.
Right.
You know, she didn't use some of the terminology we would hear in news, but she made it relatable to everybody, but she made it funny and it went viral. So people don't want to listen to conversations like we're having, I don't think.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because it's too real for them. It's too real for them. But the reality is that it's happening. And if you don't wake up and realize that it's happening, it's going to come knocking on your front door, or it's going to come in your home where you're getting a phone call about a child, or you're getting a phone call about a spouse, or people. Even something small as road rage can change your life. People have, you know, somebody cut somebody off, or somebody didn't go when the light changed to green and they get shot, or somebody didn't go through the drive-through and someone's get out the car and shoot somebody. This happened at a Popeyes. You know, how did we get here and how do we fix it? I don't know, but I think it's important for us to sound the alarm and let people know, look, it's happening. We're saying it out loud. Can we do something about this? Or can we be aware of our own actions? Can we check ourselves? You know? So don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, as in the upcoming segments, the upcoming shows, I think we're going to try to dissect this. Right, we'll take different aspects of this cultural. When I say cultural, I mean like societal, cultural situation. And one day we'll talk about. Well, we talked about education before. I think we upcoming show we'll be addressing housing in you know, the homelessness, you know, in terms of lack of housing. We talk about, you know, the economic condition where, you know, people can't afford to live. People can't afford the price of things are going up in the stores. That, you know, used to be able to get a dozen of eggs for like maybe $1 something. Now they're like $4. You know, it's how are people going to be able to manage that, right? And people in marginalized areas are impacted the most. I mean, I don't know.
And here in Connecticut,
Yeah.
I ordered Chinese food. You want to take a guess how much
$11.
I ended up paying?
$11
I ended up paying $88.
for one meal?
No, well, I mean, it was a couple of things, but then with the tip and everything, 88. It was actually like $76, I think, without the tip.
Yeah, well,
That's a lot of money.
Call me and place an order.
I
I'm gonna bring the
I
food
was
to your house.
shocked.
Yeah, it is. It's everything is getting
Like that.
expensive.
Wow. But
Just
I guess
a couple of things. I mean, you would think maybe maybe $40, $50 the most, but $76.
Right.
Everything is expensive now, really.
well, I know like going back to the Canadian, you know, the Canadian research, it says healthy public policy to reduce violence will require policy reform in all the disciplines and all sectors. Such policies must be enacted at the national, provincial, and local community levels. For example, legislation and justice reforms are required to protect all members of society and hold perpetrators of violence accountable for their actions. Fiscal and social reform are required to reduce economic inequities and address the conditions that lead to violence. And health policies are needed to improve prevention, early intervention, and treatment of violence. That sounds really nice, and I guess in some ways that's what we're saying. But how? I mean, how do you get legislation and justice reform? We talk about justice and legislation, legislation is relative to justice reform all the time. Why are we still talking about it? Why is it not happening?
We know for ourselves, we sit in a lot of meetings. We talk about a lot of policy, right? We talk about policy creation, how policy is created. Right. But we know now that a lot of people that are involved in creating these policies are not affected by the policies, right? And it all links, it all goes back to capitalism. Okay, it all goes back to capitalism, and it's hard to try to make changes when, to me, policy would be better if the people that were affected knew more about policy, knew more about policy, knew the importance of policy, and knew how their input on policy could help change their situation. But when people don't talk, when people don't have conversations like we're having now, the average people like us will never know that policy impacts them, that they can have a hand at creating and helping changing policy. If you don't know, then you don't know, and you don't have that option, right? So if you don't know, you don't have the option. Me and you, we have availed ourselves. So we have been at the table to talk about policy creation, to read policy. This has something to do with critical thinking, which people don't want to do anymore, right? So you have a group of people that are in control of other people's lives because they want to take the opportunity to sit down, read, and then say, hey, I don't know anything about this, but I think that this would fix this issue. This is what's happening. But we all have an opportunity to be part of the conversation and part of the policy creation if we just have a seat at the table.
Yeah, and people need to really understand their value in that, right? People say, well, what difference can I make? I'm just one person. If a million people say I'm just one person, you got, that's a million people that are out of the loop, right?
Right.
And so, and I think that if we leave the policy making up to those who benefit from the policy they make at our expense, then it's on us. All right.
Right.
Like you said, the people who are making the policy often aren't impacted by the policies they make, and if they are impacted, they're impacted in a positive way as a result of some negative policy they make for others. I don't know. I get frustrated.
It's a profit thing, and the best example I can give everybody that's listening, what we see in our criminal justice system, right? The policies that's created in our criminal justice system, how we see, we see high bonds and high bills for certain people or different crimes that get, but this is like a state by state thing. It's not a, United States thing. But we will see, yeah. So people benefit more off of the criminal justice system, and they make more money off the criminal justice system than I think any other system we have here in America. But the good thing about it is, unlike Russia and Ukraine, Americans, we have the options to stand up and try to make change and try to create change. And some people say, oh, we don't have that power. We can't do anything. But if you're sitting on the couch and you're whining and you're not doing nothing, you can't do anything. But if you get up and you try, you got probably 100 other people that's trying with you, and you're going to make some type of move. But you can't move when you're sitting on the couch.
That's for sure. So I think We've said a lot here this evening. I hope some of it sinks in. I hope we can come up with a pathway to solutions, because we're not going to have all the solutions in our I'm sure in our lifetimes, but if we can start a trend towards solutions, if we can start a movement towards solutions, and I'm sure there are many movements out there, so we won't be starting, but if we can help facilitate movements towards solutions, then we will have done something. And I think that begins at the grassroots in our own communities and our own families, where we have to hold each other, ourselves, and each other accountable, and figure out a way to deal with transgressions. Figure out a way to deal with like you said, that the child that tore up that classroom. I mean, and the child had no because walked out of the school, walked out of the classroom, and then left the school. Looks like, right?
Yeah, she just walked out. It was done.
You should try to check out the one where the 5-year-old actually beat up the teacher and the teacher was hospitalized.
Yeah,
So
I
I
heard
don't know
about
what
that. I
kind
didn't
of
see it.
5-year-old that was.
Yeah, I can't find your beer, but
Because
what kind of
tearing
teacher
up
that
the
was?
classroom is one thing, but beating a teacher up to the point where she had to be hospitalized, that's really crazy.
My thing is, I think about the anger in a 5-year-old that can beat up an adult. What type of anger
Right.
does a 5-year-old have, and where does that come from? From them to be able to hurt and hospitalize a adult, like what is going on with that child in the inside that they can do something like that? I would never think of a child being able to do something like that.
And probably because the adult in the school system cannot effectively defend themselves without being held responsible.
Right.
So they sit there and take it and wind up getting hurt, right? Because they're not defending themselves, right?
Yeah,
That's
and a lot of
why
teachers
I couldn't
are
be a
going
teacher.
to court. A lot of teachers are going to court. I see a lot of middle school students. Their phone is their power. Their phone is their power. They
Mm-hmm.
will manipulate the system, and then they will record the teacher, giving them a reaction to a negative reaction that they had. And teachers are
They
ending up in the
provoked.
court
Yeah,
system.
they provoked it. Right?
Yeah, and teachers are ending up in the court system. So where do we go from here? This show is about to wrap up, but I hope that we spark an interest in policy. I hope we spark the interest in mental health. I hope we spark the interest in social media and how it's affecting our lives. We just want to give you our culture's perspective on what's going on, and what all this stuff that we've been hearing about at home. We want to put it out here so you guys can hear about it too.
Yep. And thank you for hosting the show, Camilla. Thank you, Jazzy, for as always for
Yes. Thank
your
you.
informed and knowledgeable and valuable
Calling from
input.
Connecticut, all the way
Yeah,
from
Yes.
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
It's still up north.
You left the Big Apple, huh?
Left the Big Apple.
Yeah, but the
Hmm.
Big
Lord
Apple
have
hasn't
mercy.
left. The Big Apple probably hasn't left her though. You can believe
Yeah,
that.
you can't take the city out the girl.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, we hope as Tamara said, we hope this made an impact on your mindset. Hope that you will at least consider some of the alternatives, some of the things that you may want to think about in terms of what's going on in your immediate household, what's going on in your immediate community, on your street, in your with your friends, and with your associates, and how you can bring some power to bear to maybe address one child, or one family, or one somebody who you see that's doing something that's heading for problems, and maybe stop them by just pulling them aside and talking to them.
Right.
Um, we have to start somewhere. And with that, I'll bid everybody a good evening, and
Good
hope that
night.
you will tune in next time. And in about 2 weeks, we'll try to have another cultural perspective show, dealing with other areas of this whole dynamic we talked about tonight.
Yeah, and we hope to have more guests. If you are in the general public or in the community and you would like to be a part of our show, you can contact GPAT. You can Google that on your phone, or Awesome Radio. You can Google that too, and get in contact with the business office to be a part of this show. We really want to hear from everyday people, and we want this table to grow. We want everybody to be at this table.
Yeah, I'll be personally inviting people, to participate. So if you can't get in touch with GPAC, and you can get in touch with me if you know how to do so, please. If you're in my circle,
find us on social media. They can find us on social media.
Yeah, or you can find me on Facebook. So hit me up, as they say.
Okay. All right, everybody. Good night.
Peace, everyone.